Have you ever wondered how to live authentically as you grow older? As the years go by, life has a way of pulling us in different directions, with family obligations, societal expectations, and a never-ending list of responsibilities. But what does it mean to live for yourself in your later years? What if, instead of just surviving, you could thrive by reclaiming your independence and finding true joy? Today's video is going to take you on a journey that will make you rethink the way you approach aging, family dynamics, and personal freedom. We are diving deep into the story of a woman who devoted her entire life to her family, only to realize the importance of rediscovering her own identity and purpose as she entered her senior years. In this video, you'll hear the inspiring and touching story of Mrs. Elizabeth Harper, a woman who gave everything to her family: her time, her energy, and her dreams. Yet, as she navigated the ups and downs of life, Elizabeth came to a powerful realization. The most important person she needed to care for in her later years was herself. Elizabeth's story challenges the traditional ideas around self-sacrifice and the expectations we place on parents, especially mothers, and their relationships with their children. It's a journey that may seem familiar to many of you, especially those of us who have spent years putting the needs of others first. But what happens when we finally decide to focus on our happiness? As you watch, you'll discover invaluable lessons about how family dynamics evolve and the delicate balance between caring for others and maintaining your sense of self. From navigating the financial struggles that come with aging to understanding the emotional sacrifices that often go unnoticed, Elizabeth's story reflects the very real challenges faced by older adults. But it's not just about one woman's experience. It's about the universal lessons that can help anyone live more authentically, regardless of their age or stage in life. Stick with us until the end of the video because we'll also be sharing practical advice on how to prepare for your future, manage family dynamics, and how you can find your joy and independence as you grow older. You won't want to miss the life-changing insights that will help you avoid common mistakes and ensure that you're living life on your terms. Before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, I highly recommend doing so and turning on the notification bell so you never miss any of our videos. Your support means the world to me, and if you enjoy the message in this video, please consider liking it and sharing it with others who could benefit from hearing these important lessons. Now, let's jump right into the story. If you find this topic interesting, please leave a 1 in the comments. If you think there's something I can do better to improve my content, feel free to comment 0 and let me know your thoughts. Let's begin. And so, the question arises: what does it take to live authentically as yourself in your later years? This story reveals both the beauty and complexity of parent-child relationships while prompting us all to reflect on what it means to grow old. This is a question that we, whether we're parents, children, or future elderly individuals, should all consider. As we follow Mrs. Elizabeth Harper's journey, let's explore the shape of family, the role of a parent, and universal themes like how we want to live out the later chapters of our lives. My name is Elizabeth Harper, and I'm 78 years old this year. People often see me as a more traditional, perhaps even conservative mother, and that's okay by me. I've always cherished the values of family and hard work. I married at 37, which was considered late at the time. Having spent years caring for my going parents, I was a bit late to start my own family, but I never saw it as a setback. Meeting my husband, Robert, changed everything for me. A year after we married, our daughter, Emily, was born, and she became an absolute treasure to both of us. As our only child, we showered her with love and care. We hoped that she would be spared the hardships we faced and would grow up to have a stable, successful life. I read countless parenting books, desperately striving to be the best mother I could be. I admit, I may have been a bit overprotective at times, but it was all out of love. Emily was always kind-hearted and earnest from a young age. She excelled in school, and her teachers often praised her. People often told me, "Elizabeth, you're such a dedicated mother," but truthfully, I didn't feel like I did anything extraordinary. Emily was simply a diligent and hard-working child. She had a passion for reading from the time she could hold a book. Even after coming home exhausted from work, Emily would greet me with her bright smile and say, "Mom, I read this book today." That simple smile was enough to wipe away all my fatigue. When it came time for college, Emily had her sights set on attending a prestigious university in New York City. I have to admit, I wanted her to stay closer to home, attending a local university, one that was more affordable and where she could stay within reach. But Emily was determined. "Mom, I want to challenge myself with something new in New York," she said, her eyes full of excitement and possibility. I couldn't bear to dim her light, so I let her go. I'll never forget the day she left for the city. Watching her small figure disappear down the platform of the train station, I felt both anxious and hopeful for her future. Even after starting her life in New York, Emily would call me every week. Her thoughtful check-ins, asking, "Mom, are you okay?" often moved me to tears, especially because she was worrying about me instead of the other way around. She would come home during breaks, though those visits became less frequent as she made new friends and built her life in the city. It was a little lonely at times, but I knew this was just part of the natural course of life. Children grow up, and eventually, they leave the nest. No matter how much you love them, they need to live their own lives. 3 years after Emily started working in New York, she called and said, "Mom, I'd like you to meet someone." His name was David, a young man she'd met at work. To be honest, I felt a bit uneasy at first. After all, how could we, as parents, truly judge someone we hadn't yet met? When I finally met David, my first impression was that he was a gentle young man, quiet and a little reserved. Emily described him as kind-hearted and thoughtful, but from a mother's perspective, he seemed a bit uncertain of himself. I looked into his background and found that his family wasn't particularly well off, and they had some complicated circumstances. I quietly suggested to Emily, "Maybe you should take a little more time to think this through. You're still young. There's no rush to settle down." But Emily stood firm. "David is the most important person to me, Mom," she said, her tone serious. That's when I realized my daughter was no longer a child. She had grown into an adult with her desires, values, and path in life. Still, I couldn't help but worry whether she'd be truly happy. So I tried to convince her to slow down, but just as I was grappling with those concerns, Emily called and said, "Mom, I'm pregnant." I was overwhelmed with shock and anxiety. And yet, amidst all the emotions, I also felt a sense of joy at the new life that was beginning. In the end, we respected Emily's decision, and Robert and I covered all the wedding expenses. We even helped them with the down payment for an apartment, wanting to ensure the young couple could start their life together with peace of mind. It nearly drained our savings, and we even borrowed a little from relatives, but I didn't hesitate. It was for Emily's happiness. All I wanted was for her to thrive and not struggle. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. After the wedding, Emily called once a month to keep me updated. After the baby was born, she sent photos regularly, and I was content simply witnessing her happiness from a distance. Those peaceful days continued until one fateful day when Robert suddenly collapsed. He was rushed to the hospital but passed away from a stroke. Losing my partner of over 40 years left me in a daze. During the funeral, Emily stayed by my side, providing comfort. But she had her own family now and eventually had to return to New York City. The house, once filled with the sounds of life, became unbearably quiet. Meals, watching TV, everything felt empty. What had once been a lively home began to feel like a shell, just a place to store my memories. Day by day, my anxiety grew. Could I continue living alone like this? On sleepless nights, I thought to myself, if I moved closer to Emily, I could watch my grandchild grow and ease my loneliness. But would I be a burden to their young family? After months of agonizing over it, I finally called Emily. "I'm lonely, Emily. I want to live near you," I told her. The moment the words left my mouth, I couldn't stop the tears. Without hesitation, she replied, "Mom, come live with us." A week later, she came to pick me up and help me pack my things. And so, I left the home where I'd spent most of my life and moved in with my daughter's family. Boarding the train to New York City, I felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness about this new chapter. When I arrived, I quickly saw Emily's daily routine up close. She woke early to care for the children, made her husband David's lunch, and prepared for her workday. Wanting to help, I started pitching in with breakfast and taking care of the kids. "Mom, you don't have to push yourself," Emily would say, but I couldn't help feeling guilty just sitting around. However, after about a month of living with them, something started to bother me. Emily came home each day completely exhausted from work, but she kept going. Cooking, doing laundry, cleaning, taking care of the kids, without ever taking a break. Meanwhile, David did almost nothing. He'd come home, declare he was tired, and then spend the evening lounging on the couch, watching TV or scrolling through his phone. One day, I casually suggested, "David, maybe you could prepare dinner before Emily gets home?" He looked at me and said, "Men just need to earn money. Housework is women's work, and you're here too, right?" His words shocked me, but I didn't want to stir up trouble, so I didn't press him any further. Emily would come home each evening with dark circles under her eyes, clearly overwhelmed by trying to balance everything. One evening, after I had made dinner, she came home, saw the meal, and teared up. "Thank you, Mom. This helps," she said. It broke my heart. Over time, David's attitude shifted. At first, he was polite, but he soon began to ignore me, barely speaking when I was around. Once, I overheard him say to Emily, "It's hard to relax with your mom here." It stung, but I said nothing. Things only got worse when I wasn't around. One day, I came home early from errands and overheard him scolding Emily harshly. "There's a stain on my shirt again. How many times do I have to tell you?" Emily just apologized quietly. That night, I asked her, "Are you okay? Tell me if something's wrong." She smiled and said, "It's fine, Mom. David's just stressed from work." But I could tell it was a forced smile. As time passed, David started complaining about Emily in front of me, about the meals, the mess in the house, and each time, she would just listen quietly and say, "Sorry." It hurt to see her like that. The vibrant, energetic girl I once knew had become someone who endured silently, unable to voice her thoughts or concerns. I wanted to ask her, "Emily, are you truly happy?" But I didn't. I feared that if I did, she would lie to reassure me. I also didn't want to make her relationship with David even more difficult by becoming the cause of any tension. So, I remained silent, watching her struggles, feeling helpless. I began to feel out of place in their home, wondering if I was truly helping or if I had become a burden. That fear grew stronger each day. About a year into living with them, David approached me one evening after work. He was more polite than usual, and I could tell he had something serious to discuss. "Mom, can we talk?" he asked, sitting across from me at the kitchen table. "It's about my parents," he began. "My father's health has been declining recently, and my mother can't take care of him by herself. I want to bring them here to live with us." I nodded quietly, listening intently, but I understood immediately what he was asking. In this 3-bedroom apartment, there was simply no room for 2 more people. As long as I was living here, his parents couldn't move in. "Don't you think it's natural to care for your parents? A child must look after them, right?" David asked. His words were true, and I couldn't deny the value of supporting my aging parents when they needed me. But what he didn't say, what was unspoken, was that he wanted me to leave. That night, I overheard a heated argument between Emily and David. "Mom has every right to be here. She helped us buy this place. Emily was saying. What about my parents? I've been putting them off forever. David snapped in return. I couldn't sleep that night, staring out over the New York City skyline from the window, reflecting on my place in all of this. True, I had contributed financially to this house, but now it was Emily and David's shared property. More importantly, this was the home they were building for their own family and their future. The next morning, Emily was preparing breakfast with red eyes. She'd been crying. I called out gently, "Emily, I've decided to return home." "What? Why?" she asked, turning to me in shock. "Don't worry about yesterday. David didn't mean it," she tried to reassure me. I took her hand softly. "You have your own family now. I don't want to be in the way. And I have my own life too." "But can you manage alone?" she asked, her eyes welling with tears. "I'll be fine," I replied with a smile. "I have my pension and old friends nearby, and it's more comfortable in my own space." Truthfully, the thought of loneliness scared me, but I couldn't let her see that fear. I had to be strong. That weekend, I packed my things. I left most of my belongings behind in New York, taking only the essentials in a small suitcase. On the way to the train station, Emily apologized repeatedly. "I'm so sorry," she said over and over. David drove silently, but I could sense the hint of relief in his expression through the rearview mirror. "I'll visit again to see the grandkids," I told Emily as I boarded the train. Her figure waved from the platform, growing smaller with each passing moment. When I arrived back at my house, it was cold and a little dusty. But this was my home. Breathing in the familiar scent of the old house, I whispered to myself, "I'm home." There was no answer, but this place didn't reject me. It was still mine. The phone rang shortly after I settled in. It was Emily. "Mom, did you arrive safely?" "Yes, I'm fine," I said, trying to reassure her. "Don't worry. Take care of your family." That night, lying in bed alone, I reflected on everything. I had spent so many years living my life for Emily, believing that sacrifice was a parent's duty. But I came to realize that not all sacrifices are appreciated, and not all of them are rewarded in the way we expect. Maybe I should have kept something for myself all those years. My dreams, my desires. Now, with my modest pension and a small home, it's not much, but it's enough for me to live authentically. From that day forward, I promised myself I would start reclaiming my own life. 6 months have passed since I returned from New York. The first few weeks were incredibly tough. The silence, the days spent without speaking to anyone, the loneliness that crept in at night. But I've learned that humans are resilient. Gradually, I got back into my rhythm. I wake early and walk in the nearby park, letting the changing seasons calm my mind. Twice a week, I meet up with friends at the local senior center. Conversations with others my age bring new color to my life. My $2,000 monthly pension isn't lavish, but I make it work by living frugally. I save on utilities, grow vegetables in a small garden, and avoid unnecessary purchases. It's surprising how much it suffices. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 2 below to let me know that you are still here with me. I used to send Emily money every month, but I've stopped doing that. Not because she doesn't need it, but because I need to start saving for my future. I'm putting aside a little bit each month for potential care or even a nursing home if the need arises. Emily still calls me monthly. "Mom, are you okay?" she asks, her voice filled with concern. "I'm fine, don't worry," I always say, to ease her mind. I can tell her life with David isn't easy, but that's her life now. Sometimes she says, "Mom, let's live together again," especially after she struggles with David's parents living with them. But I gently decline. "You have your family, And I have my life, I remind her. At 78, I've finally learned the importance of valuing myself. For so long, I lived only to be a good mother, sacrificing my happiness and dreams for Emily's. But children don't always follow the path we envision for them. They have their own lives and their own choices, and sometimes, as parents, we have to accept that we can't stay involved forever. Recently, I was invited to speak at a local senior lecture about the importance of independence in old age. I shared a simple but powerful message with the younger generation. Don't give everything to your kids. Keep something for yourselves. Not just money, but hobbies, friendships, and the strength to live authentically. We are born into this world alone, and we will leave it alone. How we spend the years in between is entirely up to us. Children are an important part of life, but they are not the entirety of it. Loving them, supporting them, and guiding them is essential, but so is cherishing your own life. I may not be wealthy now, but I live on my terms. With my modest pension and small savings, I can lead a simple, yet authentic life. I'm gradually preparing for the time when my body will fail me. Pictures of my grandkids occasionally arrive in the mail, and seeing them grow warms my heart. But I no longer rush to drop everything just to be with them. Maintaining a respectful distance is the healthiest choice for us now. At this stage in my life, I've come to realize something crucial. Parental love is a beautiful thing, but when it takes the form of self-sacrifice, it doesn't always lead to happiness. True love, I've learned, is about supporting everyone, including yourself, to live independently. In America, as in many cultures, there's a deeply ingrained belief that parents should give everything to their children, and children should honor their parents in return. This cycle was once a natural part of extended family systems, especially in agricultural societies. Parents worked hard for their children, and in old age, they expected their children to care for them. But as the world has changed, especially in modern society, that traditional value has started to reach its limits. The first shift is economic. In past generations, assets like homes or land were often passed down, enabling children to care for their parents in their later years. But today, with nuclear families and urban living becoming the norm, that inheritance model is rapidly crumbling. Even if, like me, you exhaust your savings to buy a home for your children, it no longer guarantees that you will have a secure retirement. The second shift is in family dynamics. The traditional parent-child structure, which once seemed straightforward, is now much more complicated. Generational gaps in values, combined with the challenges of living in smaller, space-constrained homes, often lead to friction between parents and their grown children. Take my experience with Emily and David. Longer lifespans mean that elder care, which used to be short-term, now spans decades. Middle-aged children, including Emily, are already aging themselves, and they face the dual burden of caring for their parents while also preparing for their retirement. Meanwhile, the safety nets provided by society, such as public pensions and care insurance, are still playing catch-up. For someone like me, living on a fixed income, $2,000 a month doesn't stretch far enough to cover all of life's expenses. The idea of parents giving everything to their kids is still seen as an admirable display of self-sacrifice. But if that sacrifice hinders a parent's independence and overburdens the next generation, isn't it time for a reevaluation of this old mindset? As I've come to realize, preparing for your old age is not selfish. It might just be the greatest kindness you can show your children. Cohabitation, especially elderly parents living with their grown children's families, may seem like the ideal solution at first glance. However, as my experience shows, it's not always as simple as it sounds. The most obvious challenge comes from the differing values and habits across generations. For instance, the gender roles I grew up with, where men worked and women managed the home, clashed with modern dual-income ideals of shared housework. David's refusal to pitch in with household chores puzzled me, revealing how even the smallest daily habits can spark value conflicts. Differences in food preferences, parenting styles, financial habits, and daily routines may start small, but over time, they can grow into major sources of friction. The economic and emotional burdens are undeniable, too. For younger generations, the costs of their parents' living expenses, medical bills, and potential care needs can add up quickly. In homes that are already space-constrained, ensuring everyone has their own space becomes difficult, raising issues of privacy. The feeling of being cramped, like when David mentioned bringing his parents into their already crowded home, is a perfect example of this. Then there's the unspoken power dynamic over who owns the house. Even though I helped fund the apartment, I began to feel like an outsider in my own home. Who makes the rules? Who decides what happens in this space? Often, these questions go unaddressed, but they create an underlying tension that gradually builds up. As elderly parents, we tend to suppress our opinions to avoid being a burden, while younger family members hold back their frustrations due to societal expectations about respect and duty. This silence, however, creates a pile-up of mutual frustration. Cohabitation with adult children is not the right solution for every family. Sometimes, assessing family dynamics, understanding relationships, personalities, and living environments will reveal that it's healthier to live separately. When children are young, parents are the center of their world. "Look, Mommy," they say, reaching out with their tiny hands. I remember those moments with Emily, cherishing the bond we shared. But as children grow up, start their own families, and take on their societal roles, a parent's place in their life naturally shifts. This isn't a loss of love, it's a natural realignment of priorities. For Emily, her life is now full of responsibilities. Her children, her husband, her career, and her personal dreams. Many parents struggle with this shift. For someone like me, who dedicated my life to Emily, it's hard to accept that I'm no longer at the center of her world. The unconscious thought of, "I sacrificed so much," often breeds an expectation of equal return. But the harsh realities of modern life don't always align with those expectations. Nuclear families, dual incomes, rising living costs, and an increasing emphasis on self-fulfillment have reshaped what filial duty looks like today. While Emily welcomed me into her home out of love and duty, she also had to manage her responsibilities, her family, her job, and her personal life. This gap between what parents hope for and what their children can realistically provide often breeds guilt and frustration. Parents may feel abandoned, while children feel overwhelmed and inadequate. David's reluctance to confront me directly shows how this kind of conflict often simmers quietly under the surface, or worse, leads to avoidance. In today's parent-child relationships, understanding each other's positions and constraints is essential. Setting realistic expectations and respecting each other's autonomy can help avoid unnecessary tension. As I've learned, sometimes parental love means having the courage to let go. Children have their own lives to live, and so do parents. Respecting each other's need for independence is perhaps the key to creating deeper, more fulfilling bonds. As we enter old age, many of us reflect on how we want to live out our remaining years. If, as my story suggests, depending on your children for everything isn't always the best path, what options do the elderly have? First and foremost, economic independence is critical. My modest pension of $2,000 a month isn't luxurious, but it provides me with the freedom and dignity to live on my terms. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know that you are still here with me. Having your income isn't just about covering basic costs. It gives older adults the power to make choices without depending on others. In the United States, preparing financially for old age is more important than ever. Beyond just public pensions or Social Security, personal retirement funds, 401(k)s, and other asset-building strategies are highly encouraged. Balancing responsibilities like funding education for your children or covering the costs of weddings while also securing your financial future isn't selfish. It's an important act of care for your children. Another critical aspect of aging well is maintaining social connections. After I returned to my own home, joining a local senior circle was a vital step for me. Building and nurturing relationships outside of family has a tremendous impact on mental health and overall quality of life. Engaging in conversations with friends, joining hobby groups, volunteering, or attending local events helps reduce loneliness and brings new meaning to life. Particularly valuable is connecting with peers. Sharing experiences and common values with others of the same generation offers a space for emotional expression without friction. What younger people may not fully understand, our peers can empathize with, making those relationships invaluable. Ultimately, it takes courage to take charge of your own life as you age. For someone like me, who had always been defined by my role as a mother, it wasn't easy to listen to my desires and act on them. But as I chose to move out of Emily's home, I realized that sometimes you must choose what's best for you. This doesn't mean cutting off family. It opens up the possibility for healthier, more respectful ties. For many elderly adults and their grown children, maintaining visits or phone calls while living independently may offer the perfect balance. Living proactively in your later years isn't just about avoiding being a burden. It's about actively deciding how you want to spend your remaining time. Taking up new hobbies, revisiting old passions, or giving back to the community can bring a fresh sense of purpose and joy. The most important lesson from my story is that, regardless of your age, you remain the protagonist of your own life. It's vital to step forward with courage, making choices that bring you peace and fulfillment. For me, the greatest lesson learned through this journey is that cohabitation with children or family isn't always the best option. In America, like in many cultures, there is a long-standing ideal of multi-generational living, where elderly parents live with their grown children. It's considered an act of love and honor. But as my experience has shown, this model doesn't suit every family. Cohabitation works only when there's enough space, aligned values, and a shared desire for it. Otherwise, it can create significant mental and emotional strain. Small everyday frictions, like those between me and David, can snowball into major stress if not addressed. When considering living arrangements with family, decisions should be based on each family's specific needs and dynamics, not on societal expectations or cultural ideals. One of the most important lessons I've learned is the value of keeping something for yourself. I gave everything, my savings, my home, for Emily. This selfless love reflects a parent's heart, but it also limited my options. Giving everything to your children is a beautiful expression of love, but when it comes at the cost of your independence and dignity, it's worth rethinking. The greatest gift you can give your children is an old age that doesn't burden them, a life where you've secured your resources, relationships, hobbies, and lifestyle. It's not selfish, it's wise. As we wrap up today's video, I hope you've gained some valuable insights from Mrs. Elizabeth Harper's story. Her journey of self-discovery, balancing love and independence, and the importance of setting healthy boundaries as we age offers so much for us to reflect on. What have you learned from her experience so far? Is there one thing you plan to bring into your own life, whether it's embracing independence, nurturing social ties, or taking charge of your happiness in later years? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please comment below with one thing you've learned and will practice in your life going forward. If you liked this video, don't forget to leave your comment, hit that like button, and share this video with anyone who might benefit from these lessons. And of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel for more insightful content like this. Thank you for watching, and remember, you are the protagonist of your own life. Take charge of it with confidence and grace. See you in the next video.